Welcome in, everyone, and today we're talking about Garp, the hero of the Navy. And you might be thinking, okay, yeah, Garp's, he's in Hachinosu, he's chained up. That happened recently. That was in chapter 1088. Yeah, I know. Almost 100. It's crazy how much time Oda can chalk up in a flashback. And God Valley was great. Harold's backstory was kind of meh for me, but I enjoyed it. But wow, time flies, huh? That was a long time ago. So I want to talk about Garp and kind of the role he's having in the story moving forward, because clearly Oda has a plan. We just haven't gotten there yet. It's probably going to happen after Elbaf. Is the next arc going to be at Hachinosu? Is it going to be at Lodestar? A lot of questions that will need to be answered, obviously, when Elbaf ends. But I think Garp's capture actually could make sense in a few reasons about where Oda's going. So there's a lot of thought about who is the final villain of One Piece. Is the main antagonist going to be Imu and the world government? Or is it going to be Blackbeard? Me personally, I think it is going to be the world government and Imu, but I think it actually makes more sense for it to be Blackbeard, and here's why. The world government, Luffy's whole plan hasn't been, hey, I want to set out and fight the world government. That kind of just has happened naturally, of course, with Enies Lobby and Robin. And then throughout, the world government's been kind of popping up and trying to attack Luffy here or there. And of course, he fights them at Egghead. They're currently fighting the Holy Knights at Elbaf. But Luffy's saying, I'm not a hero per se. He said that many times. He's more of a pirate. I want to become king of the pirates. And Luffy, to this, we haven't even seen him in the current chapter say, oh, I can't wait to topple the world government. So maybe it's Blackbeard. That could make a lot of sense, right? Garling, but of course, Imu had a big part in killing his father. He inherits Rox's and the Davy clan's will, and he did tell Imu, hey, I will be back. So potentially, Blackbeard is the one that topples the world government, fights Imu, and then Luffy fights Blackbeard as the final villain. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I'm just saying that could make some sense. And of course, where does Garp fit into that? Well, Garp actually throws a little bit of a wrench in that plan. Because why is Garp captured? How does that make any sense? Well, I've heard it's kind of a theory for like Luffy to level up, but I don't know how much he could level up. Potentially, this is going back to when Ace died, and Luffy said, hey, I'm not going to let it happen again. So he doesn't. After Elbaf, the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, they all go to Hachinosu to save Garp, and that is the reason for the final clash and why it happens before Luffy fights the world government. That could be what's happening, and I've heard a lot of other theories that this is Garp kind of just atoning for not helping or saving Ace, which I don't really think so. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be, kind of similar to Marineford, there's going to be a public execution that Blackbeard's going to host, and then the question, of course, is going to become, who's going to save him? The answer, of course, has to partially be Luffy. That's his grandfather. And other members of the Straw Hats would make a ton of sense. How about Dragon? I don't know. Would that make a ton of sense? I think Dragon has a lot going on. Yes, it's his father, but Dragon has a lot to do right now. The revolutionaries are, of course, helping create revolutions or support revolutions in countries around the world. They are starving the celestial dragons at Marijois. So I don't know if we'll see a lot of command or captains rather go with Dragon if he were to go, but that would be cool, would it not? We finally get a Dragon power reveal, and it's against the Blackbeard pirates at Hachinosu. I could see them teaming up. And then there's the separate faction, which I think is pretty interesting, the Marines. Now, I don't actually think a Kainu would go or send an admiral, maybe Kizaru or Green Bull, because remember, Garp attacked Hachinosu unsolicited by the Marines. What I mean by that is, you have to get approval from above to go attack an emperor's territory, and he didn't. He went on his own, basically, so the Marines might say, hey, look, there's nothing we can do, we can't get you. But I do think there are going to be some Marines that would go if they are the group that tries to save him, likes of Sengoku, the likes of Siru, and then who's that one guy that would make a lot of sense? Kind of the goat of the story. You guys hear something? Yeah, Bogart. Yeah, no, I mean, he would have to be there. If anyone's going to save him, it would be him. Now, of course, there are questions like, where he was already there. Why couldn't he have done it in the first place? Well, it's a great question. I actually made a Bogart video. Surprise, surprise. If you want to watch it here, it's basically a joke, but I had a great time. Bogart, I think did see a panel of him on the ship, so we know he was there. He just wasn't doing anything actively. Maybe Garp said, hey, I need you to stay on the ship and help evacuate people like I ordered. Okay, fine. I don't really like that. There was a moment during Garp's capture which it would have made a ton of sense to see Bogard when Shiryu was kind of like invisible coming up for Kobe and then Garp steps in the way. How about Bogard also steps in the way and just blocks it with his sword? Swordsman on swordman, that could have made a ton of sense. So maybe we have an entire scene where Bogard's sitting there. Every scene is him just cool doing nothing. He's just like, I let that happen. Why? I could have done something. That could be what happens. And then, of course, the last two members or parts of the Marines I think that would come help are Kobe and Sword. So that's who I think could save Garp if it were to happen. And then there's that last little piece, Aokiji. What's Aokiji's role, right? That's a weird one. We don't actually know, right? Because he joined the Blackbeard Pirates. It wasn't like, hey, I want to go join the Blackbeard Pirates and he has some secret plan we don't know about. That is not what's happening. When Aokiji fought Kainu, of course, after Marineford to see who would become the fleet admiral he lost, we see him in a bar. He looks kind of dejected, lost a leg, didn't really have any direction. He wasn't searching out the Blackbeard Pirates, more of the Blackbeard Pirates found him. And of course, most of them lost, he froze them, and then Blackbeard himself shows up and he's like, hey, after a while, they were drinking and having a good time. He's like, you should join my crew. Actually, that's technically, that is how that happened. But first, of course, I think it was Lafitte who was like, hey, we could take this guy's devil fruit right now. We could use it. And then, of course, Aokiji just like lost his shit, half drunk, and just froze everything. But eventually, Blackbeard was like, whoa, hey, he's just, don't mind him. You should join our crew, though. You don't have any direction. So I'm not really sure what's going on with Aokiji. He really could just be a guy that's lost and joined the Blackbeard Pirates because he had nothing else to do. And he said, hey, after Marineford, I don't know what's just in this world anyways. Because surely he was aware of some of the stuff that was going on with some of the warlords, right? You would hope so. Aokiji's someone that's pretty smart. Although he can be kind of laid back at times. I think he kind of recognized, hey, the Marines, I don't like what Akainu's doing. So who's right, who's wrong? Blackbeard's fine in my book for now. Maybe Garp is his realization that, hey, wow, I don't want to kill my friend, my old mentor. Maybe I should help him and then kind of get back on the right passage of good. Which, I don't know, man. That doesn't make a ton. I know I'm going off a little bit of a Aokiji tangent here, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, like why this entire plot line with Aokiji is happening, if that's where it's going. Maybe it was just because, like, okay, we need to have some new sort of fleet admiral as this new era post-Marineford is emerging. What happens to Aokiji? Maybe he disagrees with Akainu and then he eventually loses his way and comes back. Hell, maybe he helps fight the world government. That could make sense. Aokiji's just like, screw it, I hate corruption in all forms. I don't know. A little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, I think the biggest question really is this going to be the conductor for a fight between Luffy and Blackbeard? And if it is, when is it happening? Is it happening after Elbaf? Whenever Luffy finds out, honestly, that's when it's going to happen, right? Which is probably going to be at some point after Elbaf, or we're going to Lodestar. Now, I've heard the idea brought up that, hey, we can't go to Hachinosu and have a big fight between Blackbeard, right? We just can't do it because it's just going to kind of take a divergence from the story and make it last way longer than it's supposed, because we're already kind of in the end game, which does make a little bit of sense when you think about it from a timing perspective, right? We got to get to Lodestar. We got to get to Laugh Tale. We got to fight the world government. Blackbeard needs to be defeated. There's still a lot of stuff that has to get done, which is why it could make sense that the Marines are the one to go save Garp. But I think it would just have to, that list I gave you, Sengoku, Suru, Bogard, Kobe, and Sword, that's just not enough. They would have to have an all-out force, which would be, it just wouldn't make a ton of sense right now, because Luffy has to be the one to fight Blackbeard, or Blackbeard has to be the one to fight Imu. It doesn't have to happen like that, but that's just the way that it's going to make the most sense to me. We could also see a scenario where Garp just dies. Yeah, that could be something that just happens, right? Because as I said, I don't think anyone could really save him except maybe Luffy and the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. The Marines would have to send a ridiculous amount of manpower. And maybe Garp just dies, and that kind of reinvigorates Luffy's anger against Blackbeard. And that kind of further emphasizes the idea of this entire Great War. There is no saving. There's a public execution similar to Marineford. It happens, and that kind of further bolsters this idea of this final Great War between Luffy, Blackbeard, Imu, kind of that triangle. And while we're here, I think I'm going to get to this in tomorrow's video, potentially, but the Holy Knights, man, they suck. A lot. Not all of them, though, as, you know, in Elbaf, not all of them have taken a bunch of L's, so I think we're going to talk about that tomorrow. But, yeah, this is a pretty short one. I think there's a lot of mystery going on with what's happening with Garp's capture. I think someone is going to attempt to save him, whether that's first going to be Luffy, or that's going to be the Marines. I'm not really sure, and Aokiji could have a role in it. I think Aokiji has some type of role in the future, although I'm not really sure. If you have any thoughts, please let me know. And yeah, if you guys leave a like and sub, helps channel so much. Really appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow.